course, you're not talking about those despicable, rude words they got there. I mean, they're all boop and son of a boop.
Oh, fucking kill me.
I mean, that just...
Won't you take me home? Give me with your flight. We can run away. Castle in the sky. Won't you take me home and give me wings to fly? We can be alone in the castle in the sky. We can run away and leave this world behind. Please just take me home to a castle in the sky. Castle in the
sky. What's up? Before we even get started, I just want to give a disclaimer that yes, I am pissed off and agitated in that whole entire video. So if you cannot handle me swearing or giving points that either sound extreme to the majority of people, then you don't need to watch this one. I have a bunch of videos on my channel, so you can skip this one. Is it? Alright. This is part 2.
And treat others as you wish to be treated. Love, Mrs. Sanford.
A W teacher, by the way. I believe I said that.
16-bit arcade graphics. Of all the pop culture movements in the 90s, one of the most prominent was the mascot with attitude trend. And the most notable example of this was Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog.
Now here's the thing. Right off the bat. When it comes to fucked up situations, I don't know why or how, but in some way, fucked up situations, autism, and overall what the hell moments are usually centered around either Sonic the Hedgehog, DeviantArt, My Little Pony, or just based practically... Sonic is practically one of the main centers around the actual fuck. Like, literally. I'm not even joking. Like, I recently just saw a YouTuber who actually was absolutely messed up. Now, well, he's not messed up as a person, but it's like mental state, mental health, everything fucked up, down the drain. And his name is Kabanamani. I used to watch him when I was a child. He used to play a lot of Sonic games. And to see from what he transformed from back then to now, not trying to push any shots at him or say that he's a horrible person or this and that, but it's really shocking how much influence and how much damage is linked to this franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog. It's like, it's just shocking. Or Nickelodeon or DeviantArt in general. Like, yeah.
Viewing in 1991, the Blue Blur is most notable for his extreme speed.
Yeah, we know that.
Specifically to appeal to Western markets, the character was a massive success, quickly receiving his own syndicated Saturday morning cartoon in 1993. To promote the release of this new TV series, Sega hosted a contest known as the Sonic the Hedgehog Watch and Win Sweepstakes, in which they challenged viewers to write down what Sonic said at the end of each episode.
By the way, if you hear my
Upon
pencil, I'm
mailing in their
drawing, so...
They would then be entered into a drawing, where they'd have a chance to win a $1,000 shopping spree at KB Toys. As an early adopter of the Sonic craze, Christian entered the contest, and as luck would have it, when the winners were selected in February of 1994, he actually won.
To do was exactly watch Sonic the Hedgehog, a cartoon, and listen to what Sonic says at the end of it, and write it down for a whole week. And then I had to mail it in, and I had to be drawn out.
By the way, in this video, I'm not here making fun of Christian, but like the barber really hated that kid. Like, what the hell, bro?
Would go on to become his professed lifelong hero. And after
no
the
joke.
high of this spending spree, it wouldn't be the last time he entered a contest. By the spring of 1996, the family was once again together as Barbara retired from her job to live with her husband and son in Chesterfield County. This wouldn't last long, however, as according to Chris, some of their neighbors began spreading harmful rumors regarding the family. While what happened has never been specified, the situation was apparently vitriolic enough to cause them to relocate to an apartment complex just outside of Richmond. But being immersed in his pop culture pastimes, Chris was largely unfazed by these developments. It was that September that Christian finally began his first year at Manchester High, a period he would retrospectively deem the happiest times of his life. At this school is where the creation of his very first Sonic the Hedgehog fan character, Bionic the Hedgehog, was conceived. Spending much of his freshman year as a water boy for the varsity basketball team, he came up with the character after being hit in the head with a basketball while he was daydreaming about Sega's gaming mascot. It is rather fittingly an orange recolor of Sonic that likes to play sports. This 9th grade year would also mark the beginning of his passive love quest, developing a major crush on a cheerleader he'd met during practice. After befriending the young lady, he quickly confessed that he had feelings for her, to which she politely turned him down. In contrast to his time at Providence, Chris's years at Manchester High were filled with far more conflict. In sophomore year, Christian was forcibly assigned to take the special education bus after a petty conflict with another student. According to Chris, he and another teen would race every day to see who could exit the vehicle first. This competition escalated, eventually culminating in the boy punching Chris in order to beat him out the door. However,
alright, look, here's what I have to say to this. Best year of his life or whatever, the high school. I don't know how much that's true though, but like, apparently, maybe it could be because of the autism. I don't know. It's cope. It's practic cope. See, when we're being told that, for example, yes, there was horrible times, and of course, we went through horrible shit. When people tell us, well, you see, you got to look at the people who did the damage into their perspective, why they did it, or what they have to go through, or that you have to look into the positives and not be negative about it, or not be aggressive about it and say this is bad and this is horrible, otherwise you're a bad person. We tend to try not to be the bad person, which is why we usually just say, oh well, actually this is really good because other people tell us that it is good. It's practically that we don't have our own opinion when it comes to situations like these, so we just try to fit into the crowd, which is why we usually tend to just push the bad things or sweep it under the rug because we're being told to do so. That is at least what when it came to situations like these, when I practically said, oh, this was the best year of my life, even though actually it wasn't. I was just practically lying to myself. I feel like Chris Chan was doing the same thing here, but I cannot confirm, obviously, because I don't know the dude. But just by the context in this documentary, this does not sound like the best year to be in that fucking school. And it's just sad that when it comes to shit like this, the more we grow up, the more we realize we practically lie to ourselves, or we're being told lies in order to benefit the wrong crowd. And when I say the wrong crowd, I mean the people who are just benefiting off of our suffering. That's pretty much it. Because we are being practically blindsided and told that for other people's sake and for not bringing negativity into this, you have to say yes to everything and you have to be happy about everything. That is what I'm getting from this. Just bullshit overall.
Like many of Chris's recollections from this period, what actually occurred is rather unclear. Across his various recountings,
see, even he says it. It's unclear.
Chris has contradicted himself numerous times.
Of course.
He claimed that he both did and didn't fight back, and also went back and forth on whether or not his glasses had been broken. What has remained consistent, however, is his adamance that he was blameless. He bemoaned that in spite of instigating the fight, the other boy, quote-unquote, got off scot-free. Regardless of the truth.
Now, I want people to understand when I said what I said before. I'm not saying that we're not to blame or that criticism is invalid when it comes to stuff like this. That's not my point. Obviously, criticism is important. What I'm trying to get to this is the constant manipulation and the taking advantage of someone's actual fucking mental health. Because don't get me wrong, When I say the things that I say when it comes to this, it's not me trying to say that, oh, we're completely innocent. No. If anything, I already said that there's no excuse for any of this. But when we look at the context, some parts do play in it why shit is happening the way it does. Just trying to get that here out there, because I don't want to hear, oh, well, see, maybe because he's coping, that's why he's agreeing with Christian's acts. Obviously not. I don't fucking agree with it at all. And yeah.
It was because of this conflict that he was removed from the mainstream busing system and forced to ride with who he rudely described as the slow in the minds. At this point, it's worth discussing Chris's particular distaste towards the developmentally disabled, one that illustrates the ableism instilled in him by his parents.
Here we go, another point right here. And I'm gonna say this because if parents is watching this or anyone who grew up and listen, I get it. We don't wish to be born with conditions like these. I just want to get this out there because for some damn reasons, parents act like the child is just either pretending to have that diagnosis, or that everybody seems to lie and the child does not have the diagnosis. And hold on. Let me cook further in this. And say that I cannot count the amount of times I heard the word God when it came to diagnosis as well. People with diagnosis, disabilities, when the parents are religious and they use God as some sort of shield towards the either confirmation that the child does have the diagnosis or refusing help on the child's behalf, and just blatantly force that religion onto them and tell them that they're perfectly normal and perfectly fine, and anyone else who has the diagnosis is just utter scum and God hates them, or God would never allow you to suffer this horrible state. Yeah. Yo, parents gotta stop that. I'm gonna be real, but people gotta stop that in general. If you believe in God, you believe in God. But stop using God to force hatred onto the child. You're not doing anyone any favors, especially yourself. You're just making things worse, and once they grow up, they're just gonna hate you for it, or they're gonna hate the religion they're in, and they're not gonna believe. Since we want to quote unquote save people when it comes to stuff like this is the worst way to do it. As someone who's been in a cult, as someone who's been in Jehovah's Witness, I can confirm this is the worst thing you could possibly do. Don't ever do that. Like, don't use God as some sort of form to try to manipulate the child, or manipulate anyone for that matter, because you're not doing anyone any favors. You're just being a horrible human being, and that's just as simple as that. What they do, which is one of the worst things you could possibly do, is enforce ableism on the child. Practically telling the child, oh, you're not like them. You're not like these people with that diagnosis. No, you're perfectly normal and you're fit to this society. What is eventually being done is practically just practically feeding hatred because of your own insecurity. And when it turns out that he does have the diagnosis and he realizes it, there are two things that are liable to happen. Either they're going to lash out at the parent, or they're going to lash out at the people with the disability and act like they don't have it, and go in on anyone else who is disabled, either mentally or physically. That is that is the problem. The toxic mentality that is being fed to the child based off the insecurity. There is no reason to add this extra hatred towards people with that disability if you are so sure that your kid should not be a part of this.
At this age, Chris
It's just,
uncritically took the words of
it
authority
does not make
fingers
it
to
better.
heart. In what are
That's what I'm
typically
saying.
the years of rebellion for most teens, Chris was remarkably obedient. This can be observed rather transparently in his first self-produced video titled Song of Christian. In this clip, Chris goes on multiple tangents about grievances he holds with his peers, such as their use of vulgar language.
Of course, you're not talking about those despicable, rude words they got there. I mean, they're all boop and son of a boop.
Oh, fucking kill me.
I mean, that just really ticks me off. But you should never ever do. I mean, it's just rude.
Nah, man.
Very rude.
Can we skip this?
I mean,
Let's continue.
it's Alvin and the Chipmunks. Let's give him a big hand.
Alvin and the Chipmunks used to be dope as a child. Oh my god, nah, bro.
Hello.
Why?
My name is Barbara Chandler, and I'm calling to request a song for my husband for his birthday.
No kidding.
His name is Bob Chandler, and he's 71 years old today.
Oh,
No kidding.
R.I.P. to the
And
husband,
the
by the
song
way.
I would like to request is A Bushel and a Peck.
Push on the back and hug around the neck for a 71-year-old man.
I think so.
As Christian entered his junior year, the maturity one would expect from a high school student didn't seem to be developing. In a mock radio broadcast Chris recorded for fun, his mother humors him as if he's a child, while he pretends to have guests such as Alvin and the Chipmunks on the program. Of his time at
Here's another thing that I can... Okay, this is actually a controversial take, because maybe with some, you gotta talk or act them like they're a child or something like that. But here's my controversial take to this. Stop treating people with a diagnosis like fucking children. That's my controversial take. Stop treating them like they're fucking different. Because what's end up happening is two things. They're not gonna develop into the way they want them to, and they're simply gonna either question why other people are looking at them differently from the way they're talking. I had this shit happen to me. I remember all the time when I used to communicate with teachers, right? And they made weird points. They like the way they talk. It's like they were talking to a fucking 5-year-old. Even some doctors used to do that. I remember back then when I was 13, and when I got into school and I started speaking, none of them people got what the fuck I was trying to say, because it's like, yo, what the fuck is this dude on about? That's legit how people were looking at me because of the way that you talk. I'm not saying don't try to specifically explain to someone with autism or the diagnosis where you're coming from or what you're trying to imply, whatever context it is. But to speak to them like they're fucking children, because it's just, no, you should not do that. This is my take to this. I think it's just wrong, because you're damaging that person more than you're helping, and the child especially. Just speak to them like normal children, and if they don't get it, explain it either twice or slower, but not in a fucking baby voice way. It's bad. I think it is bad, and actually insulting too. So here's that.
Manchester High, 11th grade has the most documentation. Recovered assignments illustrate how he performed at school and the actual quality of his work against the grades he received. One of the first league projects is dated October 29th, 1998. Intended to be an icebreaker activity for his chemistry class, Chris notably refused to talk to any male students, leaving all their spaces blank. In spite of his woes of loneliness, things weren't entirely hopeless. It was in that class he would become lab partners with two female students, Kelly Andes and Sarah Bevel. They would be some of his first quote-unquote gal pals, a term Chris later coined to describe all of his female friends. Chris has reasoned that his autism test found that he got along better with women rather than men. Chris's gal pals would make up the entirety of his social life throughout high school, to varying degrees of sincerity. Perhaps the most earnest of these was Tiffany Gowan, who sat with Christian every day during lunch. It's worth noting that during this time, Chris was extremely naive on relationships and sex. He apparently was unaware of the idea of dating until he turned 21, a testament to his sheltered youth. Evidently, the sit-down talk of puberty never came. But where Chris's parents failed, entertainment took its place, a trend that would be recurrent throughout his life.
The way he said it until he was 21, it's just, yo, come on, man. You didn't have to throw that shot in it. Like,
after unlocking the parental controls on his television, he accidentally came across a suggestive scene in a film and had his first erection. Part of the known curriculum Chris took that year was a cooking class, evidenced by recovered kitchen safety worksheets he'd completed. In an assignment titled Safety First, he notes, "What could happen if you plug too many appliances into one outlet? It could start a fire." Christian also took child development classes, which included the activity of simulated parenthood. This is done through a variety of different methods, be it an interactive infant doll or, in Chris's case, an empathy belly, an attachable pregnancy stomach meant to enable students to understand the effects of carrying a child.
The belly made it uncomfortable for me to cross my legs, and when my legs were separated, it put pressure on my private part, which gave me a strange, weird feeling.
Oh my, what the
So, it was quite an experience while I had a belly like a pregnant woman.
The fuck?
Despite bizarrely admitting to the teacher that the device gave him an erection, he still received a perfect 30 out of 30 grade.
Jesus, what are these teachers on, man? What are they on? Like, the fuck? Yo.
So tell me, why do you like Pokemon?
I don't know.
Oh, Pokemon.
You're not sure why you like it, but
Pokemon
you do,
is
right?
shit. It still is. Unfortunately,
In 1996, the first ever entries in the Pokemon franchise were released to the Game Boy in Japan and quickly evolved into a pop culture phenomenon. Within the first 2 years of its debut, the franchise received its own trading card game and anime series. And it wasn't long after this merchandising boom that the phenomenon began taking over the West. Due to the series' popularity, in 1998, the Pokemon TV show made its debut in the United States, with the games following soon after. It's unknown exactly when Chris discovered Pokemon, but
Pokemon
when he did,
was the
he
shit.
immersed himself with the
like,
universe
it was
almost
awesome.
as deeply as Sonic. At the same time as the Poke craze, Chris was taking Spanish classes in high school, where he often incorporated his love of video games into assignments. In a project dated February 8th, 1999, Chris illustrates his Spanish vocabulary by translating the names of characters from both Sonic the Hedgehog and Pokemon. This would be his earliest known reference to the franchise. It was this same month that Chris Chan would celebrate his 17th birthday. To commemorate, he produced a drawing of his character, Bionic the Hedgehog, holding a flag proclaiming, "I fought my autism, and I..."
Okay, next to the cringe of that, can we please talk about the Sonic OCs and why they... No, not even Sonic OCs. CACs in general. Why it ruins video games. I'll make a separate video out of that. But the Sonic OCs, the OC trends on DeviantArt, is really why I just stopped being a Sonic fan overall. Like, yo, the amount of OCs that were introduced. I'm not talking about people who are just, like, I'm not putting any shots at people who actually created OCs, whatever, more power to them. But when you have just blatant recolors, not even changes, not even characterizations, just you have a red Sonic with, let's say, blue eyes. That's my OC. He has the ability to fucking turn into a transformer, some shit like this. And you have multiple of these variants on fucking DeviantArt. That shit just yo. And the amount of impact this shit had too. Like, it would have been one thing had it just been a fucking trend and that's it, like TikTok trends. But yo, that shit lasted for years and years, and everybody kept going with their shit, man. It's like...
I won. It was also that day that he would produce Espanolic. This character would later become one of the first entries in his line of original Pokemon cards, eventually amassing enough to create an entire Pokedex, which he dubbed the Wall of Originals. Of these homemade cards, standouts include Chikachu, a female Pikachu who can only deal damage when accompanied by a boyfriend. Flashbulb, a flashlight Pokemon. Compufrog, a frog made from computer code. And of course, we can't forget Plotistic, a plant that's on the spectrum.
Wait, the fuck?
Flashbulb, a flashlight Pokemon. Compufrog, a frog made from computer code. And of course, we can't forget Plotistic, a
Plotistic. Jesus Christ, man. Yo.
Plant that's on the spectrum. As Chris continued to express his fascination with the Pokemon franchise, he soon created the first version of Quick's Pokesite. CWC are the initials of Christian's full name, which he is unusually proud of due to its ability to be pronounced as Quick. This webpage would only last a few months before being replaced in July by Chris's second, more amateurish Pokesite developed entirely in Notepad. Entering his final year of high school, Chris began this last hurrah by writing a short Pokemon fanfiction.
There's another thing I gotta say. There's this movement, I guess, where people are like, I'm autistic and I'm proud of it, or I have this disability and I'm proud of it, which no shots to them. I mean, that's great if they're proud of it, I guess. But in my case, I never felt proud or ashamed. Like, to me, it was just there. Because here's the thing. What you gotta be proud for? You're literally born with it, and that's that. Yeah, sure, there are assholes who make fun of that, but, like, fuck them. That is how I felt. Like, I never felt the need of being proud of a disability, of a diagnosis. Just like I don't feel the need of to be proud of having diabetes. Like, I have diabetes type 1. I don't feel proud of it. I literally just fucking have it. It's just the extras, like to throw it in, and then you have some of these activists who trying to speak for us, or like, oh, well, you know how people with that diagnosis, what they have to go through. And these people I hate them especially, because they don't have that. And even if they had it, the reason I hate them is because it's people like that who just want to be on the crowd. They want to be in the center of the crowd. They don't give a shit about people like us. Let's get this shit out there. This is how I feel. Whenever I see these fake-ass activists speak, they piss me off in more way than one. Because you have this influence. You have the crowd's attention. We don't. Like, if something happens to you, everybody gives a shit about them. But the people like us who are actually suffering from the damage, no one is going to give a shit unless it's mentioned by these same fucking people. So, I don't give a shit about these activists at all. Like, fuck them. Seriously, fuck them. But that's just me.
Titled How the Pokemon Came Into Our Pokeballs, it was completed for an English assignment asking students to invent their own myth. Unlike his previous writings, his English teacher actually enjoyed this one. Sometime this same year, Chris also began volunteering
like,
at
you
the
give him
local
an
Books
A+ for
as an
talking about his
assistant gym leader
erection,
for their
writing
Pokemon
that shit
Trading
down?
Card
Nah.
League. His staffing role was captured in a segment by Richmond NBC affiliate WWBT, showcasing him dressed up at the store as Ash Ketchum.
I'll put out my Dragon Air, even though it has 60 damage on it. Oh boy. And now it has 3 energy on it. Slam attack.
With the end of the millennia, Christian was the same as he'd ever been. In fact, his obsession with the media was only worsening. He seemingly began showcasing his Pokesite around school, with various teachers and friends signing his guest book. February of his senior year would be an especially productive month for Christian Weston Chandler. That Valentine's Day, he published a poem to commemorate the event, titled Valentine's Day Hymn.
Okay.
While a cheerful celebration of another couple's love, this attitude would not last. Just a few days after this, Chris celebrated his 18th birthday. In attendance were Chris's parents, his stepbrother, and his gal pals from school. One of the only times Chris would interact with them outside of class. He would later reminisce on this being one of the best days of his life. With high school soon coming to a close,
okay, this one
seemed
actually
like
feels
a great memory to end
genuine.
this chapter of Chris's life on. But it would turn out he still had one more trick up his sleeve.
Alright.
In March, Christian was instructed to create an album cover as an assignment for his computer graphics class.
Okay.
One of the restrictions, however, was that students could not use any copyrighted materials. Given his obsession with pop culture, which bled into everything he produced, Chris struggled with the project's requirement of originality. This was when he had an epiphany. In order to circumvent the copyrights held by Sega and Nintendo, Christian invented Sonic-Chu, a hybrid of the characters Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog. He recalls imagining the character after lunch on that fateful day of March 17th.
I drew Sonic-Chu on paper from imagination. Then I drew him on my currently open Photoshop program.
Yo.
After checking with Miss Chalifo and my father, who is big on copyrights and whatnot, Sonic-Chu was legal then and still is, and only mine. So, soon after, the CD cover was made,
I blame, okay, rest in peace to the dad, but honestly, like, this is the same thing with entertaining the name, like when the animatronic gave Christian the name, they should have never entertained this, bro. Like, now he just gets to act like a spoiled brat. Like, this is what it sounds like, a spoiled brat throwing a tantrum because he's not getting what he wants. So they finally give him the fucking copyright shit, and he's like, yeah, it's mine now. It's like, no, it isn't. And the teacher who gave it the pass, I know the school's already weird because they let him fucking write down about the erections and he gets a fucking A+ about this. But like, in this case, copyright, this should have never been entertained. This is one of the biggest reasons why I think this played a huge part. Had Sonic-Chu not been entertained, a lot of the shit afterwards would have never happened. Like, dead ass.
And passed with an A+ grade.
Upon this hybrid character's inception, things would never be the same. Now with his own quote-unquote original creation, Sonic-Chu took the forefront of all of his creative endeavors. The next month, he created a Sonic-Chu sweatshirt and gave it to one of his gal pals as a birthday gift. He also began producing...
See, this is another thing. Okay, you could argue back then they didn't know Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright, not many knew about him. Okay, screw that. Pikachu, everybody in their mama knows who the fuck Pikachu is. How in the hell did they not call his ass out? They should have criticized him as well. They should have not rocked with it. Not saying they should have been cold with it and saying this is trash, but they should have definitely been like, hey, bro, we can see what you're doing, and it's nice that you're doing it, but maybe you should lay off on using copyrighted characters and try to create more of your own character, you know, because this can, if you try to sell it, then this can be trouble. You can argue this might sound extreme, but it really doesn't, considering the downhill shit that it goes further, which they were practically aware of.
Dozens of Sonic-Chu variant Pokemon cards. 5 months after this, he even launched a Sonic-Chu site to succeed his Pokesite. And it wasn't long after that, he began drawing short comics featuring his mascot. In May, Chris attended his school's senior prom with his mother. Upon arriving, one of his gal pals saw this and felt sorry for him. So, she asked him for a dance.
Oh my god.
To be one with my crowd, I bought a pair of tickets, but I went there with my mother. But then I realized I was still an outcast because I stood out more like a lonesome wallflower. But that
imagine
night,
they got paid
my
to be his friends. That would be even worse.
Gal pal, Tiffany Gowan, asked me to dance with her.
No, I'm not trying to throw shots at him in this one, but like,
my hand and pulled me onto the
this is what it sounds like. They felt sorry for him. That's why they're hanging out with him.
In April, the 18-year-old began a self-documentary project for class titled A Week with Christian Chandler. It provides valuable insight to everyday life during those high school years, as he admits to falling asleep in classes on a regular basis. It also notes that he attends several behavioral adjustment programs, and proceeds to document several of his creations.
These programs didn't
Most
do
notable
shit.
is the City Room, which is an early version of what would later be known as Quickfill. It is a miniature city made from the pieces of Chris's various Lego kits and other memorabilia. It was here that he revealed that his family was moving back to their house in Ruckersville. According to Chris, his parents had failed to sell the home and would have stayed in Richmond had they succeeded. On June 15th, Christian graduated from Manchester High School.
Yes.
In spite of placing on the honor roll, for Chris the celebration was not ceremonious. Before receiving their diplomas, an award ceremony was held to recognize the school's gifted students. Chris became jealous after not being given an award for his art class assignments.
During the early award ceremony, I was a little thrilled to get a star for my grades. But then I find out that I'm outshined in my creative skills because those people do not appreciate the time and effort I took into making Sonichu.
Okay. Too little, too late. I'm not blaming Christian's reaction in this. I think it's still bullshit that he gets mad about this, but them teachers had every opportunity and every chance to call his ass out and say, hey, look, man, we don't accept this. This is not original. I'm sorry. Or at least they could have said it like in a professional way. Like, hey, Christian, I've seen your drawing, but, see, we know Pikachu, we know Pokemon, and we think this doesn't pass the creative exams. So why not try next time, be more creative about it, and then maybe we can give you a better grade or some shit like this, right? But to just give him hand him out a fucking A plus, and then in the end of the fucking semester be like, oh well, you're not getting this because you're not creative. Like, fuck out of here, man. Y'all had the chance and you didn't. This is how I feel when I see this shit, man. Like,
I was a high-functioning autistic boy who came way...
And there we go. He uses his autism to play victim. Yeah, fuck this shit.
beyond out of his social shell.
He 18 at this point, so fuck this shit.
Sip, a big fat zero.
When it came time to actually receive his diploma, Chris went up without making eye contact with anyone, going so far as to slap away the presenter's hand when they reached out for a congratulatory handshake. He then ran off and found a table isolated enough to cry alone. It wasn't simply jealousy that had overwhelmed him that day, but rather the realization he was leaving behind the, quote, best circle of friends he ever had. As mentioned before, Chris seldom hung out with his gal pals outside of high school, and the end of his time at Manchester largely meant the end of his social life as he knew it.
Why,
the high school graduation has since become a point of trauma for Chris, as he felt it marked the end of the best years of his life. The thing is, what he remembers from his high school years is an extremely romanticized version of events that didn't include the manipulation those around him participated in to help him make it through.
Here we
Fondly
go.
recalls being an honor roll student, though teachers often gave him higher grades than he probably deserved.
Fuck them teachers.
He liked to see himself as an engaged pupil, though slept through many of his classes.
Yeah,
he had
fuck
friendships, but they always seemed to end when the bell rang. Speaking of friends, let's take for example one of Chris's gal pals from middle school,
Wait, they
the
felt
girl
sorry
next
for him,
door
or
who would
what's
often
going on?
hang out with him at the bus stop and near their home. Chris interpreted their time together as genuine camaraderie, when in fact she had been paid by Bob to essentially babysit him. On top of this, there...
Holy shit. Okay. I got something to say to this. First of all, manipulation. When I hear this, I have to say something about this. How should I even put it in a way where it kind of sounds more, I guess, understanding? I guess I can't. People who manipulate are cowards. Cut and dry. They're cowards. I don't feel any form of understanding, relatability, remorse, or even some sort of closure when I'm around people who manipulate me. Because it's practically just lying. They're lying. Why do you have to lie to Christian? And which is, by the way, the reason why the whole shit went this far in the first place. I'm not blaming them for the events that happens after, because that was her fucking choice. But I'm just saying, a lot of the shit that could have been prevented, there was no need for manipulation. There was no need for them to lie to him. There was no need to pay these fucking high schoolers to hang around. Yo, if I found out, let that have been me. Had I found out that, my friends were paid to hang around me. First things first, we could never ever be friends. I cussed them all out. Because honestly, you're making money off of my fucking time that I spend with you? Fuck you. Fuck you all the way. I hope you have the worst fucking day in your entire fucking life. Just for this shit, I wish them nothing but the bad and the worst. The ones they paid, I would have, okay, Bob died, so rest in peace. I can't really say shit about that, but like, if I would have been the son, I would be totally, this would be it. Like, no context, nothing. But even outside of that, morally speaking, this shit is just fucked up, man. Like, how can you actually think this is an appropriate and responsible way to act towards someone like this, to treat someone like this? It's just fucked up, man. When I see, like, some people might think I'm over exaggerating, or I'm too judgmental, or I'm too toxic about this. Whatever. I don't give a shit. But let's look at this in a moral way, since we want to talk about morality here. What the fuck is this? And why is this a thing? Like, if you don't want to hang around someone, or if you think that person is weird, just say it and fucking move on. Why force yourself? Oh wait, the paper. The paper, of course. Nah, bruh. This is just fucked, man.
There's been speculation that his father had a meeting with the principal of Manchester High, which resulted in school staff bringing together upstanding girls in Chris's grade to befriend and protect him from the horrors of high school, meaning that the gal pals were also a result of behind-the-scenes meddling by his parents. Perhaps what makes this period of life so mesmerizing to Chris is that it was a time of innocence, when he was still largely getting away with being oblivious to the world.
It was a time of bullshit.
An era where his parents could still feasibly shelter him as he developed an over-reliance on children.
Nah, this pisses me off. I'm gonna be real. Watching this actually pisses me off. I'm not even going to sugarcoat or pretend like I'm not getting emotional out of watching this trash. What pisses me off is the aftermath. I don't know, okay, it was TikTok videos, but maybe I'll do a commentary about the school system and why the school system sucks ass. But to give a little preview, the reason I think the school system sucks so much and shit like this is because shit like this partially plays a part when it comes to why people's lives is so messed up. Why lie to the fucking child? Same with the schools. They lie to the children. They tell them, oh, you can do all kinds of stuff. They prepare them. They don't even prepare them for work. You'd rather sit there and lie to the child. You'd rather have him live this childish, happy-go-lucky life, and once he gets out and shit gets all messed up and all fucked up, what is the first thing they say? Oh, well, this is life. You're on your own now.
Children's entertainment to compensate. And no matter how superficial the relationships were, they still were friendships to him. His gal pals were the one thing standing between Chris and solitude. After high school, as Chris had guessed, he'd lose contact with them, but most could have never guessed how far he would descend into isolation. The weather was dark and rainy that graduation day as the now adult Chris sobbed by himself in his graduation gown. When Barbara and Tiffany found him, they comforted the emotional young man. His father, however, was less forgiving with how his son had behaved. Perhaps he read the writing on the wall then and there and realized the futility of his family's future.
What time is it? 40 minutes. I think this is where I'm gonna stop it here. Yeah, fuck this shit, dog. I'll be real. I don't like this shit. I don't like this at all. But when it comes to simple shit at school or teaching your kids about life or teaching someone in general about lies, why the fuck do you need to manipulate someone just to get your way? In the end of the day, maybe that person's gonna understand and be like, yo, I'm gonna do it that way anyways. And if not, then, yo, there's always someone else, right? There's always someone else who can teach that person. Why does it have to be you? Why do people that manipulate always have to play the fucking hero? Actually think that they're the good guys in the fucking story. This is why I can't. And seeing this made me mad. This actually made me mad. Paying them to be friends with, yo, that's just fucking disrespectful. Again, now with the future, now what the fuck she did, I don't feel sorry for her, but it's acts like these that you have like, she's not the only one he's not the only one who's been through this. There's a lot of people who didn't commit the horrible shit that Chris Chan did, and they are now completely lost. Either contemplating about their existence or contemplating about their life. It sucks. It sucks. It's a cycle of cope. And I might make a video about this as well. I'm gonna call it the cycle of cope, I guess, where manipulation plays a huge part into why it's just damaging people left and right, especially nowadays when we look at people, the insecurity, the anxiety, the mental health problems, it all is based off that. It all is based off that. I'm Strolixart, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. I'll be uploading part 3 soon. Hopefully it'll be better, because this segment right here sucked ass. I'm not gonna lie. Left a bad taste in my mouth.
I'm losing control over lights in the space. Keep jumping around.